Salutations, respective viewers. I'm George from Ireland. So, this video is about Meghan Markle's popularity, and I can now reflect on this because the rating for Her Royal Highness, the Duchess of Sussex, came out yesterday. I was reading a newspaper called Metro, and they cited a poll conducted by a company called Public First. If memory serves, it was Public First. And they had asked members of the public, do you approve or disapprove of various members of the royal family? Now, they've got to be the major ones: the Queen, Princess Anne, the Queen's three sons, and a few others. I mean, the Queen's first cousins and second cousins, I don't think they're going to bother with those ones. Or the really little ones, like, Prince Archie, for instance. They're not going to bother with him. Those who have a public profile. So it revealed that Meghan Markle is the second most unpopular member of the royal family. However, she has still got net approval. More people approve of her than disapprove of her in the United Kingdom. They only ask people in the UK. I should emphasise that, because obviously many members of the royal family are widely recognised across the globe, and Her Royal Highness Meghan, she has a following in the United States, and indeed has people who monster her there. So Her Britannic Majesty had a 73% approval rating. Now, that doesn't prove the other 27% disapproved, because plenty of people are neutral. So, well, sorry, 73% of people approved of her, I should say. To work out your approval rating, first of all, we found the number of people who approve. Let's say it's 73%. You find the number of people who disapprove, supposing it was 20%, and you subtract the disapproval from the approval, 73 minus 20, and then you get 53%. I actually don't know how many people disapprove of her. But as I say, 73% of people approve of the Queen, and that doesn't mean the other 27 people disapprove, 27%, because some express no opinion. But the Queen will be below 73. I mean, she might 60% approval would be about right. And incidentally, 60% of people in the United Kingdom support the monarchy generally, 20% oppose, and about 20% are neutral. Obviously, it fluctuates from poll to poll. Was rather lower just after the death of Princess Diana. So anyway, the second most popular person is Her Royal Highness the Duchess of Cambridge, commonly called Kate Middleton. She's got 67% approval. Wow, that's fantastic, considering she's not been a part of the royal family for that long, well, 8 years, and she's got very little disapproval. So there we are. And I think that Meghan would do well to study their example. She would profit by emulating them. Why are they so popular? They never put a foot wrong, okay? They're obviously absolutely immaculately turned out, and they steer clear of controversy, all right? So if you want people to like you, keep your most contentious views to yourself. Not surprising, really, and I've made this mistake a lot because I'm a bit of a big mouth, and I find it immensely emancipating to mouth off about my opinions. And so I shan't edify people with forthright expressions of my views the very first time I meet them. Allow them to like me, making a connection, and maybe just later tell people things like that. As I pointed out in another video, I have no idea what the Queen's opinions are on climate change, gender equality, income equality, or any issue you could mention, because maybe she doesn't have an opinion, but she just doesn't say anything, okay? So she tries to be neutral so everybody could like her, and no one's got a particular reason to dislike her. Kate Middleton likewise. But anyway, Meghan Markle had 41% approval and 29% disapproval. So her overall approval rating is plus 12. So I know people say, oh, she's hated in the UK. Now, there are those who detest her, and they would like to put it about that this woman is widely reviled, which is not true. And indeed, there are those who are her partisans and those who are vigorously pro-Meghan. They obviously want to say, oh, this luckless woman, she is this victim of racism, and she's suffering so badly. Well, both would be wrong, because, as I say, more people approve than disapprove. But, her negatives are higher than anyone apart from Prince Andrew. 41% approval, not great for a prominent member of the royal family, but the 29% disapproval is almost as high as Prince Andrew's. And Prince Andrew doesn't have quite such high approval because of what's there particularly to like. I mean, I don't think he's dreadful apart from the Jeffrey Epstein allegations. because she's a divisive figure as well. Now, the thing is, there are segments of the population that adore Meghan Markle amongst youngsters. She's rather more popular, and amongst left wingers. Among Labour voters, she's twice as popular as she is amongst Conservative voters. So the other thing is this will change, all right? Because Prince Charles, he was pretty unpopular in the 1990s. Even his ex-wife, Princess Diana, said he shouldn't be king. They should skip a generation, go straight to Prince William. Camilla Parker Bowles was detested by a huge swathe of the population, and so on. Even the Queen's personal approval was fairly low just after the death of Princess Diana. The monarch was held to have mishandled that, refusing to lower the Union flag up at Buckingham Palace on the basis that never ever happens because the monarch never dies. Okay, so the Buckingham Palace can't be in mourning. And the Sun newspaper headline, "Show us you care," demanding that the flag be lowered to half-mast. And the Prince of Wales, that's Prince Charles, he finally prevailed upon his mother to break with tradition and order the flag to be lowered to half-mast. Anyway, it was done. And the royal family, they were execrated. They were blamed for the death of Princess Diana, I think completely unfairly, but there we are. So the media have monstered many members of the royal family over the years, and I think there's too much self-pity from Meghan Markle, and it's rather unedifying and unbecoming, and the other members of the royal family, they don't let it get to them or give the impression that it doesn't. Prince William several years ago in an interview saying, yeah, you do occasionally see something in the newspapers you don't like, but there's nothing you can do about it, so just try to ignore it. Okay, I would remind His Royal Highness the Duke of Sussex, that's Prince Harry, what he said in an interview several years ago. His father said, do not look at the newspapers. Never read the newspaper because it'll only upset you. You'll read some story which you think is grossly unfair, which is sort of stinging rebuke of you. So he won't read these things, and he wouldn't have any newspapers brought to his house, okay, because the newspapers were quite often reproaching him. So that was that. Don't let it bother you. I mean, sometimes people have written, I think, grossly abusive things about me. Hello there, bold Robert Emmett will die with a smile. About me, and I said I chose not to read it. Why would I upset myself? Life's too short. It's not going to help. You're better off not knowing. It's a bit like knowing if you're going to die today. Some ways you prefer not to know, wouldn't you? Because it would just stress you out, cause you anxiety and grief. So better not knowing. Like, look at Prince Edward in the 80s, joined the Royal Marines, and he dropped out of training, and he was branded a wimp of the Windsors. So there have been these scathing headlines about all of them. They've all been castigated at some time or other, and sometimes they've been rightly vituperated. So you have to expect the Daily Express, the Daily Mail, the Sun, the Daily Mirror in particular, to attack you. I like Meghan, she gets loads of racist abuse in the media. Well, I don't agree, actually. I know she does online, and I've come across some of these trolls, these kooks and nutters on the internet, who are saying these vile things about her. So a lot of it's frankly racist. Other of it might be more guardedly racist, or the things about that she was married twice before, not once. No reason to believe that. No corroborating evidence. What's the evidentiary basis for believing that? Who did she marry? When? How do you know? And that she's had 3 terminations. I've no idea that. Are they British, the racists? Well, there is racialism in the United Kingdom, as there is in every other country in the world. I don't think it's particularly bad, not very widespread, not very severe. I could be mistaken. I would rather none of it existed whatsoever. But I'm going to be completely honest about it and say that I think, sadly, racism is natural. Not good, it's bad, but natural in many people. So we try to fight against the worst instincts of people. Was it worse years ago? It was worse years ago. They did a survey in the early 60s. How would you feel about your daughter marrying a black man? And a majority of people, it was high, about 60% said they would be against. Well, very few people said that these days. Well, they do other surveys about various ethnic groups. How would you feel about this person marrying out? And whites are some of the least racist people. There are white supremacists. They're foul whites. I don't try and defend whites generally just because I am one. In Ireland, very little racism. I think that you're right, there isn't. Partly because we don't have so many ethnic minority people, and they've come in at a time of great economic growth and all the rest of it. And we've had about the right level of immigration. We do have immigration from Poland, from India, from Nigeria, from Slovakia, and so forth. But yeah, I mean, I remember seeing anti-Polish graffiti in Dublin once, but that's about it. Some racism against the traveller community. I remember a Fianna Fáil councillor in the 90s calling them knackers and saying disparaging things about them. Members of my family expressing racist views against black people and indeed against travellers, or indeed sectarian opinions, but yeah, maybe a little bit of Anglophobia. But yeah, it's not that common or that vicious in Ireland, fortunately. So, but back to the 80s. So my point is that all members of the royal family have taken some stick. Princess Meghan is no exception, so she shouldn't be wallowing in self pity. Okay, feeling sorry for herself, it doesn't look good for her. I take Fergie, as in the Duchess of York, Princess Sarah Ferguson, and she was labelled the Duchess of Pork when she was a bit rotund in the 80s and so on. Anglophobia comes natural to some Irish people, indeed. I mean, I haven't come across hibernophobia here in England for years. What else about Fergie? But she didn't help herself again. She got this financial advisor, a balding Texan called John Bryan, and she went on holiday with him to the south of France while she's still married to Prince Andrew. And then she was sunbathing topless with him. Now, John Bryan's his financial advisory duties extended to sucking the toes of his client. Well, I don't want that sort of financial advice. And John Bryan was obviously inevitably labelled the abominable toe man by the British media. He wasn't assassinated for committing adultery with Fergie. So, she was obviously castigated as a slut. Now, you might say that Fergie brought it on herself when Meghan hasn't done that kind of thing. The Irish, Welsh, Scots all say the English and hate the English. The saying, ever heard of that? Well, I mean, I know some people in Scotland hate the English. I don't think it's many people. Yeah, and obviously we rib each other, we crack jokes about each other, but usually there's no malice behind it. A joke is just that, it's a joke. Unfortunately, there's some dimwits who do not know what a joke is, right? It is not the truth. So some people can't distinguish, a bit like people can't tell fact from fiction. The English conquered them. Well, Robert Emmet is very complicated, actually. 1603, the King of Scots became King of England. If anything, be the other way around. Or in Ireland, we're having this intra-Irish war. Not quite sure I can call it a civil war. In the 1160s, we'd had the councils once before, and the King of Leinster, Dermot MacMurrough, asked Strongbow to help him, who did, who was ruling a part of Wales. He's the Earl of Pembroke. His overlord was Henry II of England, and blah, blah, blah. So I won't go into it. And obviously, our High King, Rory O'Connor, and our church, the Synod of Cashel, and obviously there's a Treaty of Windsor, in which our ecclesiastical leadership and our political leadership recognised that Henry II was the overlord of Ireland. The English are well imperialists, Irish and Scots and Welsh too busy to killing each other and themselves. Well, the English often fought each other as well, constantly. And there's the English Civil War. I know it's really the War of the Three Kingdoms, but Ireland were very imperialistic. We obviously conquered Scotland and so on, and we're part of British imperialism. And so, anyway, excuse me, Robert, I just want to get back to the topic. Hello there. Sorry, a message flashed up from a lady, but I've forgotten what it was. You've derailed my train of thought. What are my thoughts on the 72 MPs writing a letter of support for Meghan? Well, I disapprove, actually, and they've never done it for anyone else. And I made a video about that a couple of days ago. So if you wish to know my views on that particular head, I would direct you to that one, and I suggest you view my comments, which I posted on this channel only 2 days back. All right, so look at Prince Andrew, the Duke of York, the Queen's second son. That's him, Prince Andrew. Randy Andy's, he was said, okay, in the 90s, and they said that he was shagging everything that moved and saying, oh, well, a lot of his friends have got AIDS. I mean, I don't know if that's true or not. And there was a rumour going around that he was HIV positive. I've no idea if he is or not. And incidentally, it wouldn't reflect discredit on him if he was, okay? You could be a completely good and morally upstanding person and have this, doesn't matter how you call it, okay? People who suffer from that disease have compassion. They still get retrovirals. But anyway, some people thought that was disparaging, or that was an attempt to give him a bad name. And now these days, Prince Andrew, he's regularly labelled a rapist and a paedophile in the press and things like that because of his close association with Jeffrey Epstein and hanging around him. So he's got a terrible public image. So he's the one who gets it worse than Meghan Markle. But again, he didn't help himself. He brought on himself because even after Jeffrey Epstein was convicted of unlawful sexual contact with a minor, Prince Andrew remained a close friend of his and was going to stay in his house for a few years after that. Now, let's be fair to Prince Andrew. it looks good for him actually that he didn't abandon his friend, saying, especially if you say, okay, he's done something wrong, he's been punished, that's that. But he's not all bad. There are some positive facets to his personality. So I'm still his friend, even though I recognise my friend has done wrong, and I denounce his wrongdoing. And what Epstein was convicted of was persuading some girl, I think she was 15, not knowing her age, to perform some erotic dance for him, frottage, not penetration. I know there are allegations, but I'm going with what he was actually convicted of, not allegations. There we Prince Charles, people have said that he's a lunatic. They said he suffers some derangement of mind, speaking to his plants and so forth, that he's self-indulgent and a hypocrite, actually, with the climate issue, okay, and he's been here before. Global environmental citizen, getting that award from Al Gore. The Prince of Wales, that's Charles, flying to the United States back in about 2004 with several staff. Well, if you really want to reduce your climate footprint, don't fly. Demanding people buy British products, yet purchasing German automobiles himself, and he can afford to buy British cars, even though they're more expensive because he's so rich. So it was the most nauseating sort of hypocrisy. What else? That he was interfering in politics with his black spider letters. So he's got his knuckles wrapped quite a lot. People saying he was gay about 2004. Now, again, that wouldn't be bad even if it was completely gay. But those who were saying are usually saying, and this is a terrible thing. And if you're a straight man, you usually don't want people going around saying you're a homosexual. So look at Prince Philip. He's the Queen's husband, and he's often been tarred as being a racist, and he's obviously said some very un-PC things down the decades. All right, I mean, the man was born in goodness 1921, so he grew up in a very different era when it was acceptable to say certain things which would now be regarded as scandalous. He was accused even in the 1950s of being an adulterer. Usually they rise above it, they don't dignify it with a comment. Do you think Charles will be king? Yes, I do. But the Buckingham Palace took the very unusual step in the 1950s of specifically denying that he had been unfaithful to the marriage bed. And so Prince Philip was accused of murdering Princess Diana. That was in the newspapers in the late 90s. So they've all had a terrible press at some time or other. So Meghan should just stop wallowing in self-pity and get up and keep going and actually improve her situation. I always find this when I'm in a difficult situation. You'll feel a great deal better if you don't lament your situation, improve it. If you're doing something to improve it, you will, take your mind off your troubles and do something positive, right? Anyway, Camilla Parker Bowles, who's she? She was Prince Charles's girlfriend way back in the early 70s. Her maiden name's actually Shand. Camilla Shand married Andrew Parker Bowles, a cavalry officer, had 2 children with him, blah, blah, blah. So Prince Charles's relationship with her was over in the late 70s. Then he married Princess Diana. By the mid-80s, he's having an affair with Camilla again. So this became public knowledge in the late 80s. So she was widely detested. There was such revulsion at her. She was labelled vile, a hag, a seductress, and so on. In her local supermarket, she was recognised and buns were thrown at her. Every grossly insulting thing you can imagine was said about her. There were all these foully offensive comments about her in the press, on the internet, cracked by comedians, including yours truly. But anyway, she never moaned, she never gave interviews, she rose above it, she had mettle, okay? She grew a thick skin, and gradually it eased off, and the public accepted her. She got married to Prince Charles, and that's that. That's the role she seems to want to play, the victim role. I don't understand as why. Good question. Some people have that personality, or they lack the introspection, the self-awareness to recognise their own wrongdoing, to change their behaviour. They feel that they're superior as a martyr. There's advantage to being a victim, more sympathy, sort of a Munchausen syndrome thing. Charles and Camilla is a nice love story when you think about how long they've been together. Well, exactly. They got married in 2005, about 30 years after they should have done. I've talked about it extensively in other videos. So he really does love Camilla Parker Bowles. She's 14 years older than Diana. She's a year older than Prince Charles. Anyway, so Camilla in the 90s was seen as the Wicked Witch of the West Country because she lived in Gloucestershire. That's a county in Western England. And people were making very nasty comments about her looks and all sorts of things about her, saying that she resembled a scrotum. But and she just had to take that. She had to tolerate these very hurtful things were said about her. And so I think Princess Meghan would profit by studying this sort of behaviour and saying that's the way to do it. Just ignore it. As in, if you hear it, you just have to get over it. But ideally, don't expose yourself to it. Don't read these newspapers because you know it's not going to help. What is the point of that? Nothing. Where does that get you? Nowhere. It doesn't gain you anything. It makes you worse off. It ruins your day. So your popularity can improve. If she changes her behaviour, she keeps her mouth shut, and then her approval ratings can go up. And those young people, she's much more popular amongst young people. This elderly generation will die off. Where will Meghan's popularity be in 30 years? Much, much higher than it is now, I expect. And controversial behaviour over. So the public is forgiving and people are willing to change their minds. So they've got to be a little bit more sensible, take some decent PR advice, and when they be PR savvy, her public image can improve very considerably. Just stop saying and doing foolish things, setting yourself up to fail, being flagrantly hypocritical. And in this way, her public relations situation can be ameliorated remarkably. Okay, so please support me on PayPal, georgecallahan79@gmail.com, or indeed on Patreon. Book online lessons with me in history, politics, English, literature, English as a foreign language, French, geography, religious studies, and so forth. Book me as a tour guide in London. You can direct message me here. And does Uncle Sam collect tax from MM? That's a good question. She is a United States citizen, and US citizens anywhere in the world have to pay tax. So I would expect so. She could renounce her American citizenship, which would improve her tax situation. I'm sure that would be get yelps of outrage. The reaction would be very negative in the United States were she to do that. And also that would close off the option of moving there because people are now openly speculating that Prince Harry and Meghan are going to move there. I see Meghan doing exactly what Diana did, using the media when it suits her. Well, exactly. They set up a foundation, not a charity. Oh, I didn't understand the differences, and that they can raid the money for it. Well, yeah, I mean, we can't be too much of a media hoe. If you live by the media, you'll die by the media. Because Princess Diana was always trying to have it both ways, whinging about this media intrusion when she'd also been adulated by the media, the most photographed woman in the world, getting all this breathless coverage. So she was on a pedestal, this icon of beauty and grace and all the rest of it, as though she was somehow saintly. It was ludicrous. The other thing about her is she was then phoning up newspaper editors all the time to say, and I'll be here, photograph me, giving these very full and frank confessional interviews about adultery. Now, admittedly, that was after her husband, Prince Charles, had given one to Richard Dimbleby, in which Charles obliquely acknowledged adultery. Were you faithful to that marriage? He says, yes, I was, until it was clear that became irretrievably broken down, 1995. Diana did that after divorce, not really. The dough I'd faced, nobody's asked me. Oh, I feel so sorry for myself. So, and obviously, Harry is a bit afflicted with the same thing, feeling too sorry for himself when he's in fact extraordinarily blessed, so fortunate, and he's not really counting all these boons which he has in his life. Do you think the 6-week break could turn into an extended stay? I don't think so. Well, it could do, but I think it's unlikely. That's so Princess Diana, don't whinge about media intrusion when you welcome it, when you collaborate with it, and getting Paul Burrell, her butler, to phone up the newspaper editors a lot when she wasn't doing it herself. So she was involved in all this, complaining about a problem she'd created. Do you think they used Archie by hiding him in the UK until Africa and Doco? Not really. I don't think that's using him. He is their child, and probably better for him not to travel at this age. Is she running for president, Meghan Markle? I don't think so. I mean, although she's got political opinions, I don't have any suspicion that she has any political ambitions. So there we are. I think that's enough. Right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to sign off now. Goodbye.